Good evening, good afternoon, good morning.
That picture gets me every time. I'm not
I will
expecting it.
I will change it, but I'm getting some mileage out of it for now. I
It's good.
honestly
It's good.
I honestly didn't even notice that when I was putting it together. I was like distracted doing a bunch of different things and I caught a snapshot of like the show with both of us and I didn't realize until I played it and it was like 5 minutes before the show. I put it in the platform and played it and I was like I caught Bentley at a bad time. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get some mileage out of it. It'll get changed. We'll get a better picture. But how you doing, bud?
I'm good. I'm good. I apologize for being tardy this evening. Please don't tell my parents that I was skipping class. Um, but I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited for a wedding weekend. Yay. Go me. Wedding weekend in the fall. I love it's my first of two this fall. So yay. Uh,
Oh, that should be a good time. That should be a good time for sure.
yeah. Yeah.
But
I
anyway, man,
will be
we had a go
I
ahead.
I would say I will be recording the South Carolina Ole Miss game. So anybody out there, please do not text me or call me with
No
results.
spoilers.
I will be watching it. Now, I do have to mention the wedding is an open bar, so I might have to wait till Sunday morning to watch the game. But
That'll be your hangover treat.
yeah, oh dear God. Would there be a worse way to start my Sunday? Like if Carolina just loses like
Oh,
41-12 and I'm
and your
hungover,
hungover is all sin. Like, oh
and
man.
then I have to drive my date back to the airport to send her home. Yeah. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
What a Sunday for me that would be.
Yeah, let's avoid that. Come on, Carolina.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah, and we're licking our wounds a little bit after this past weekend. It was a little bit of a tough board. We still finished above 500 though.
Okay.
Well, you finished above 500. I finished
Nice.
exactly 500.
Hey.
Yeah, so we had a draw or a push with the Texas A&M game. You went 10-8-1. I went 9-9-1. We had a tough week. It was our first real tough week of the season. But there were so many like upsets, near upsets, but we got right out the gate with a really interesting game. So Miami was a 20-point favorite essentially against Vatek. Now, you and I had talked before the season started that we thought Vatek had an opportunity to kind of be a dark horse, and it hasn't come to fruition for them this year. They have some NFL talent on that roster. They just haven't been able to put it together. It is a rebuild still. They haven't really been able to recover from the Beamer departure. There was when you have a legend that was there for that long, right? It's hard to replicate. It's like Penn State; they struggled a few years after all the paternal nonsense, but also like replacing a guy that was there for so long. It's just difficult,
Yeah.
and you don't usually. But this year, it really kind of felt like Vatek had some pieces that maybe they could be a dark horse. Haven't done it yet, but they gave Miami everything they could handle, and really might have won that game. Like for all intents and purposes, it's hard to look at that and say without a doubt that's an incomplete pass. Now, I understand you and I talked about this, and I'm going to put it exactly how you and I talked about it. I think it was an incomplete pass. I'm pretty confident that it was an incomplete pass, but I didn't see anything on replay that tells me it's an incomplete pass, right? If that makes sense. And we talked about it a bit. You can kind of see the ball bobbles a bit, and it seems like it's on the Miami defender, and then he gathers and regathers. But there's like video doesn't show you definitively to the point that I thought they could overturn it. If they'd have called it incomplete on the field, agree 100% that they would have left it. I thought they should have left it. I want to get your thoughts here live on air in terms of how that game ended, because it feels like a valiant effort by Vatek and a potential huge upset, 20-point underdog. Miami is looking like potentially a national championship contender, definitely an ACC championship contender and a playoff contender. This would have been a big feather in the cap for a program that really is on a pretty big rebuild.
Yeah, for sure. So we did kind of talk about Kyron Jones, the quarterback of Virginia Tech, being a dark horse or Virginia Tech, I guess, being a dark horse, leading this team to potential ACC title. I came into this season, I guess really after the Florida Miami game, saying I wasn't going to bet against Miami the rest of the year.
Yeah.
I also said the same thing about Ole Miss. That didn't really work out for me. There are two plays in this game that came to mind, even more so than the Hail Mary at the end of the game. And then I'll speak to the Hail Mary, right? So you have 3rd and 6, last possession of the half for Virginia Tech. You have a 3rd and 6. Kyron Jones gets sacked. There's 25 seconds left on the clock, and that makes it a 4th and 10. And the Virginia Tech coach calls a timeout. Virginia Tech coach, by the way, 1-8 in one-score games as a head coach going into this. So he calls the timeout as opposed to letting the clock run down to like 4 seconds. And they kick the field goal. Field goal is good. There's still 20 seconds left on the clock. And then they proceed to like squib kick it to Miami. And they allow Miami to get down the field and kick a field goal, right? To make it 24-17 at half. So you could be up 24-14 at halftime. Excuse me. And then they come out in the second half on their second possession. They fake the field goal attempt and turn the ball over on downs, taking another potentially 3 points off the scoreboard. So that's 6 points you've cost yourself, essentially. Right?
And you can be confident about that 3 points too, because they've got a good kicker.
Yeah, right. So it's like you could potentially be up 6 if you don't allow the field goal at the end of the first half, and then you kick the field goal in the second half. That's 6 points. That's between the win and the loss. I understand you're in a top 10 matchup at home or on the road on a Friday night. You want to go for touchdowns. You want to be aggressive. I get it. I understand it. Right. We said the same thing about Kentucky 2 weeks ago when they played
Georgia, punting that ball.
Exactly. The punt of the ball. That was a little different because they didn't basically have 3 points in the bag. But here, like you take the points. You just do. Right. It's a top 10 team. You're on the road. You got to make the weather's bad. You got to make things happen. You know that Cam Ward is electric. We saw it late in the game when we escaped the sack and had the little shuffle pass out to the I believe it's the tight end who caught that ball. It's like you gotta take the points where you can get them when you're fighting a top 10 battle like that. It just those were kind of like coaching decisions that I saw, and credit to my dad. He was the one that pointed those out to me. I didn't really I was so focused on the end of the game, I didn't really think back that much. But I was talking to him today.
To focus on that though.
Yeah, sure. Right. So hey, what's up? What's up? Yeah. To that point though, at the end of the game, I think the general consensus around video replay is to get the call on the field correct.
Yeah.
Right. I understand the desire to go with the call on the field that the referees make. But the point of the replay is to get it correct, right? Like that's why we have this in place, is to make sure that the right thing happens. To me, that was very clearly an incomplete pass. Not only was there no clear and concise possession, but if the Virginia Tech player had caught the ball, he was laying with his upper half of the body over the end line. So even if he does catch it, you have to prove to me that he comes down in bounds before his shoulder pads or his lower back guard touches the end line. In no way, shape, or form did I ever think that Virginia Tech caught that ball. But obviously, I think they made the right call. The video evidence kind of confirmed what I thought. I can appreciate the referees making the call in in a split decision or split second decision there. Tie goes to the receiver, whatever. However you want to call it. But I'm glad that they went to the replay and made the correct decision based off of the video evidence that we had there.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, right? And I think we get wrapped around the language surrounding replay, right? The clear and concise and all that, and the as you put it, the tendency to kind of lean toward staying with the call on the field. I agree with you 100%, though. I do think they got it right? And it was just in that moment you're thinking God, is this enough evidence on replay to overturn a call on the field? I'm glad they did, though. I think I'm with you 100% that I think they got it right, and that's the big thing. And yeah, they do sometimes, right? And
yeah.
I've always been a big proponent of the guys on the field should not be involved in the replay, right? I don't know why they're on the horn talking with the replay official about what they saw in real time, yada, yada. if we're truly going to have an impartial replay that's going to get the calls right, we've got to take that out of it. But I also, I agree with you 100%. That's the big thing. I think they got it right. I think in my mind, I never thought it really was a catch. I just wasn't sure, right? And maybe that's part of the problem with the language around replay is I wasn't sure they were going to overturn it.
Yeah.
Because if you look at all those angles, you can't tell whether he's in or out. You can't tell whether is that possession with a foot down and then they strip it out, or like, what is it, simultaneous possession? Because that's what I thought they were going to call first, was simultaneous possession, goes to the offensive player. But then we see on replay the ball comes loose. It was a very complex situation. But I'm with you. Long story short, I do think they got it right. Miami survives, keeps their, obviously I don't think losing Virginia Tech was going to kill their playoff hopes if they went out the rest of the way, but keeps the undefeated season alive and keeps their margin for error remains big enough within the ACC to be able to, absorb if they do take a loss later in the season.
Yeah, I do think that Clemson playing well, had Miami lost this game, bolsters their chances of making it into the playoff with like the one loss, right?
Yep.
I think that helps.
For sure. And you mentioned a moment ago, Ole Miss, Kentucky, man, the fighting Lane Kiffins came out and laid an egg, man. I don't know, I watched a decent portion of this game. I had a birthday party on Saturday, so I was kind of in and out, checking on games. I watched most of the UGA Bama game because there was a Bama fan at the party, so we were able to kind of put it on TV and just zone out. But what the fuck, man? Like, how do you lose outright to a team that I don't think Kentucky's, at least I didn't think before Saturday that Kentucky was really in Ole Miss's category. Jesus, man. Are we starting to see some of the holes in this kind of Ole Miss roster? Like, I think we all just assumed like Jackson Dart and Lane Kiffin, they were all just going to figure it out, and this was going to be all offense all the time. But Kentucky said, not so fast.
Well, I said it to you, I believe, over the weekend. Kentucky was like one of the more difficult teams to handicap because we don't know what team they're getting. That being said, I've put myself in a spin zone here after this result. I also texted you, I was like, man, this is worst case scenario because like Ole Miss gets a wake up call before they come to Columbia next weekend, and maybe it's all systems go. But then I thought about it some more. It's like maybe South Carolina has reached a point where we're a look ahead game. Like Ole Miss was just overlooking Kentucky, and Lane Kiffin with his come to the sip hashtag and all these transfers and recruits and he's like, whoa, hey, that boy's up in Cola, man. Like they got something cooking, like with Kentucky, whatever. I mean, beating Kentucky is not for everybody. Not everyone can go and hang 31 on the Wildcats. Like certain schools in the SEC can, but not everyone, I do think
you guys tried to lay the foundation for Georgia and Ole Miss, and neither of them took fucking notes.
Hey, I watch South Carolina, people. We know how to do things. Now, come back next week, and if my tone has changed, maybe I might still be hungover. No, I do think this Ole Miss team does have holes, right? Lane Kiffin historically has not been the greatest coach in big games. Now, I don't know that I would label this a big game, but I do think that you could view it as like kind of a stumbling block is too generic. It was like a trap game, right? Like Kentucky, everybody kind of assumes they shot their wad with the Georgia game. They held it really close, but then back-to-back losses in conference. It's like, man, maybe they just kind of lay down on the season and that's kind of all they got. And then they went in and they drug Lane Kiffin and that high-powered Ole Miss offense into a rock fight. And when you fight a Lane Kiffin team in a phone booth, we've seen it time after time again at Tennessee, at Southern Cal. Like when you are able to drag that Lane Kiffin offense down and fight in a phone booth in a rock fight, a battle in the trenches, which is where Ole Miss was supposed to be really, really good this season, especially on the defensive line. We've seen it time and time again where Lane Kiffin teams just come up short, and if it's a run and shoot, if they're out there with I don't know who's with Southern Cal, right? A high flying offense that's just running up and down the field. They can score with anybody. They have no problem doing that. But if you drag them down in the mud, they have issues, and it reared its head this weekend in Ole Miss and Oxford, and that seems to be how you want to play this Ole Miss team is press the guys outside and force them to run the ball, and that's really where they struggle. I think Quinshon Judkins not being there this for Ole Miss this year, that they really missed him this weekend.
Yeah, and I got thinking about this after this game, really, because we hadn't really seen this. Ole Miss hadn't really played anybody yet, so that was one big thing. Is like they hadn't played anybody yet. Kentucky kind of caught them, maybe feeling themselves a bit. Maybe that's part of it. But I mentioned to you, and I don't know if you remember this, that like I picked Ole Miss in our online dynasty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have any fucking athletes on that team, like on that offense, especially. Like their skill position players are like good, not great across the board. And Quinshon Judkins, I think they miss him a ton.
Yeah,
because he's a home run hitter. He's that threat that can really, when you get in that rock fight, you turn around, put it in his belly, and that guy's going to get you 3 yards in a cloud of dust, right? And he can get you those tough yards. But they don't seem to have a guy they can just lean on and say, like, this is our guy that's going to make a play when it matters. They don't have a lot of speed at the skill positions on offense. They're kind of like they lean on Lane and his kind of gadget and scheme it up sort of offense. And in Kentucky, like you said, they pressed them on the outside. They took away a lot of that kind of run after the catch type stuff. And Ole Miss couldn't respond. They couldn't stand up to the pressure. So
yeah,
it's tough. And I think, maybe that's the formula, and we might see Ole Miss. I might be out of playoff team already. I thought Ole Miss this was gonna be the year that Lane was gonna get over the top. That Kentucky team scared the living daylights out of me in terms of my pick for them to make the playoff. That's for sure.
Yeah, because their schedule doesn't get any easier, man.
Nope.
They go to Columbia next week. They go to Death Valley on that loaded October 12th slate. That's the night game in Death Valley. They go to Arkansas. They got to host Georgia. Like, if they don't get it back on the rails quickly, they could be looking at missing the 12-teamer.
Yeah, they could be a 4 or 5 loss team pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Michigan, Minnesota. Michigan looks probably exactly like we would expect them to look when you don't have a quarterback and you don't have Jim Harbaugh anymore. Minnesota played them tough. I'll give them that. They were able to kind of slow that running game down a bit. But if anybody ever needed empirical evidence of like a 2, when you have 2, you have none. Michigan has 2 that aren't good, so they really have none. That offense is an absolute fucking slog with the 2. Like, they try a 2-headed approach. One's supposed to be like Alex Orji's supposed to be super athletic, and he doesn't seem to be able to really like stretch an offense. They are not a threat offensively, and they're going to play a lot of games just like this that are one score, edge of your seat if you're a fan up there in Ann Arbor, and it's going to be real sloppy. They're going to play in a lot of rock fights. They're going to be in the mud. It's boring football.
118 passing yards in the last 2 games combined for Alex Orji. Yeah. Mullins had 111 yards rushing in this game. So
he's a stud.
Yeah, he's really good. They can run the ball.
Line they aren't. I mean, that guy should be running for $170 to $200 every week. But that offensive line just isn't what it's been. It's tough football to watch.
Yeah,
I got a bunch of friends who are like Michigan fans, and they were real euphoric after the title. And now you got to kind of remember you just won a national title the rest of this season.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, Minnesota missed that field goal in the first half.
Yeah.
And it's like, that Michigan defense is still good. I mean, I get that you were able to throw the ball all over the field in that Michigan defense, but like you still have to score points against them. You know what I'm saying? And it ended up being a 3-point game. That was really the difference. There was that missed field goal in the first half.
Yep, for sure. K-State, Oklahoma State. You were so right about K-State, and I was so wrong about Oklahoma State. K-State put it to Oklahoma State. We're starting to see that maybe Oklahoma State just isn't that team this year. You and I had some high hopes, Ali, and we both love Mike Gundy, the man.
The
He's
man.
40. Still 40. Still 40 in my eyes.
Forever 40.
Forever 40. But K-State looked good. And we started to see a little bit of the passing game open up for Kansas State. And that's you and I, we've been asking all year, like, can Avery Johnson throw the ball? Can he throw the ball? Very athletic, very fast quarterback. Can he throw the ball? Little bit this weekend. You started to see flashes of it. If they're going to be able to push the ball down the field offensively with the passing game, they're going to be tough because he threatens you. And when you have a quarterback who threatens you that way, running the ball, it opens up a lot of other things. We were just waiting for that passing game to open up, and now we got to see it again, right? Oklahoma State has kind of had these moments during these games where the defense just seemed to shut off. We'll see, right? Is K-State going to be able to keep it going? What are your takeaways from this one?
Yeah, this game just got out of hand quickly.
Mhm.
So Oklahoma State went up 13-10, and then it just Avery Johnson avalanche occurred, right? Like that offense was rolling like his locks out of the back of that helmet. Like it was just ugly for Oklahoma State. I mean, Ollie Gordon averaged 5 yards a carry,
Yep.
but he only got 15 carries because they were behind. Immediately starting the second quarter. Basically, it just they're not. We said this in the Arkansas game. They're not a team. Oklahoma State, at least, built for coming from behind, and K-State is a team that plays very well with a lead, right? Because, like you mentioned, Avery Johnson puts so much pressure on your defense to set two spies, like to have, and you really can't. It's tough when you have a quarterback as mobile and as electric as that guy to get stops. If you know that they are in a pass or run option offense, right? If he has to drop back and pass and play from behind, I still think there are some deficiencies there. He is a true freshman. I get it, or a redshirt freshman, whatever. But playing with a lead, K-State is, I think, as dangerous as anybody in the country because Avery Johnson is so electric running that option offense.
Yep, for sure. BYU Baylor. You had some faith in Baylor. We talked a little bit about this last week on kind of why I chose BYU. BYU played bully ball the week before. Baylor had that heartbreak loss to Colorado the week before. Felt like Baylor was a little bit hungover in this game, and BYU seems to kind of be finding their mentality, finding their approach. That they're going to be a dangerous team in the Big 12. Utah dropped a game this weekend that we wouldn't have expected them to lose against Arizona. Big 12 kind of feels open.
Yep.
Maybe K-State's the class of the Big 12 if they can continue to play with leads, like you mentioned. But Big 12 feels pretty wide open. And I think it's starting to kind of play out the way that you so astutely observed this offseason, that like up and down that conference, it may not be the best at the top or the most talented at the top, but top to bottom, it's pretty competitive.
Yeah, I will say Baylor almost came back and covered on this game. They were driving for a lead late and threw a pick, but I believe the line, what was the line? 6?
Three and a half.
I think it was 3.5. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. And they lost by 4, so like I missed it by the hook. Know? Yeah. So I was almost right. I was very close to being right. BYU kind of
fucking hook, man.
It's always the hook, dude. It's always the hook. But BYU, I mean, you're good on you for calling the BYU. They kind of took their foot off in the second half a little bit, I thought, and allowed Baylor to get back into that game. It probably should have been a bigger loss for Baylor than it was, at least on the scoreboard, right? But I don't think Baylor's bad. They gave up a freak, or they scored on a freak. Excuse me. They scored on a freak Hail Mary against Colorado, and then had the ball punched out going into the end zone in overtime. So it's like kind of a ticky-tack loss. It could go one way or the other. And then they fought to the end. They play hard for Dave Aranda down there in Waco, and they don't really have the horses, I don't think, to be like a great team. But I mean, you mentioned it there, right? Top to bottom, I think the Big 12 is the most competitive league in the country right now.
Yeah, I think a big thing that affects Baylor, and we talk about, do kids actually go to school when they play football? But Baylor is very much like a high quality education school. It's also a private institute. It's a little different than the other schools in the Big 12. So it is tough. You mentioned the horses, right? It's tough to get the guys down there to really put a team on them. And they're still dealing with the aftermath of all the Art Briles shit. So
Yeah.
Aranda's doing a commendable job down there. I think they play hard for him, but like you said, they just don't have the horses, man. It's tough down there. Waco's not a desirable place to go either.
No, it's not.
Sorry, Waco residents, but
Yeah, sorry.
not the most desirable place in America. Southern Cal struggled early, but we found a cover. They got hot in the second half. They are living very dangerously basically all year. They just keep falling behind at half, and they have found ways to come back in halves. Wisconsin's not a great team, so I don't know that this can be a great kind of barometer for Southern Cal going forward the rest of the season in the Big 12, but they seem to really struggle with the beef of the Big 12, and Wisconsin isn't even the Wisconsin of old with Ron Dane and Jonathan Taylor and all those running backs that they've put in the NFL and all those offensive linemen that they've put in the NFL, because they are making a conscious change to the dairy raid style of offense. So I look at this game and I say, like, looking ahead in the Big 12 schedule, Southern Cal might be in some trouble with the bigger, beefier offensive lines of the Big 10.
Yeah, they're another one who's they're obviously playing out of style being in the Big 10, right? Their defense is better. Their offense, obviously without Caleb Williams, seems to be a little bit worse than it was last year. I mean, they scored 38, so like, what are we really saying? They're bad? But it's they're going to need some adjustments if they want to be competitive in the Big 10, I believe. Obviously, Oregon, Michigan, Ohio State, those are your current big dogs in the Big. Illinois, I guess if you want to throw them in there. Penn State. There's some very beefy teams in the Big 10, and Southern Cal has never been that. Even going back to like Reggie Bush and Lindell White, like running behind those lines.
Kind of a finesse team.
Yeah, for sure. Lindell White was just huge. So
he was an anomaly.
Yeah, and they don't have the defenses that they had at that time with Ray Maualaga or whatever.
Yep.
Clay Matthews and the
Polamalu.
They're a team they're a very good football team. Don't get me wrong, but they're playing in the wrong conference. Like they just are. I mean, it's pretty apparent watching them on Saturdays. You're down 21-10 to a Wisconsin team that's not good.
Right.
I mean, you mentioned it, playing with fire. That's exactly what they're doing. Now they did get super hot, and Lincoln Riley made very good adjustments and got Miller Moss and those boys going in the second half. But I mean, that's not going to work every week. I can promise you that.
No.
Somebody's offensive line is going to lean on you, and they're going to possess that ball in the second half. And it just so happened to not be Wisconsin.
Yeah, go ahead and get down 21-10 to Iowa.
Yeah, good luck, bud. Good luck.
They will sit on you. Notre Dame, Louisville, little bit of a bounce back for Notre Dame, but this got tight at the end and ended up a one-score game. We covered by a point here. Is Louisville better than we thought, or are we seeing that Notre Dame just isn't as good as like their preseason expectation?
I think it's more so Notre Dame is not as good. Louisville was like 16 coming into the season. I think they were a top 20 team. So I mean, we all kind of knew Louisville was good, right? They finished the year as hot as could be, except losing to Florida State. But regardless, coming into the season, we knew that they were going to be good. I don't know if we had playoff hopes for them, but a top 25 team all year long. But Notre Dame, you're talking about an offensive slog.
Yeah, you're talking top 5 expectations, and they just can't get anything going.
Yeah, they're like Notre Dame's offense is what Michigan wishes their offense could be. That's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's tough. Riley Leonard, I guess
he is very limited.
Yeah, get away from Mike Elko did him no favors, I guess.
Yeah. I think we get tricked a little bit by the competition that Duke was playing last year and him just kind of carrying that team as an athlete.
It's the same competition.
I don't know.
Notre Dame.
I know. I don't know what's going on. He just maybe it is Mike Elko, right? You might be right. It's just that, right?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't look like a Division I power quarterback.
No.
At Notre Dame. Like he just doesn't. And I understand the allure that Notre Dame would have had to bring him in as a transfer, but it's been tough. It's been tough.
Yeah, for sure.
Very tough. Ask Northern Illinois. Oklahoma, Auburn, and man, for a long time on Saturday. I thought I was on the right side of this one. And then Auburn filled their shoes, and Oklahoma was able to cover. Still a one-score game, 27-21, I believe, was the final of this one, but didn't cover the 2.5. I was really surprised by Oklahoma's poor performance early in this game, but maybe they're just not that good. I don't know. I thought Auburn was going to play them tough, but they looked pretty bad for a good portion of this game.
Let me ask you which of these two facts is more surprising to you? Auburn had 200 yards more offense than Oklahoma and lost, or Peyton Thorne threw for 300 plus yards and only one interception and lost.
The second one.
Okay. Yeah.
They're both very surprising, though.
Yeah. I mean, you give up, 482 yards of offense to Auburn and still win. Like that's
tough.
I don't know what to make of that. I don't know what to make of that. This was
the most confounding. Don't break.
Yeah, like it was the most confounding game. I for the life of me, I didn't understand it. Yeah. I'm just watching. I had it on the second screen. I'm just every time I look up, it's Auburn's just driving the ball, and then they don't score. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
what?
I believe they went for it on 4th down in the red zone twice and missed. I think it was. So you're giving up points there, but
they had the missed field goal in the second half, and then threw a pick six.
Missed the field goal.
It's like,
yeah, it's tough. They really fell apart. It is what it is. My dark horse is dead.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you think we see Jackson Arnold again this year for Oklahoma? And maybe in the Cotton Bowl against Texas?
Maybe. I don't know.
Because they have a bye this week, and then they play Texas. Probably Quinn Ewers is back.
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, it's. I don't have an answer. I would say probably because he is Jackson Arnold is the reason that Dylan Gabriel is at Oregon.
Yeah.
Like that.
They've kind of put their eggs in that basket.
Yeah, I mean, I would be shocked if they don't play him again, unless he comes to them and says, "Hey, I want a red shirt and I'm going to transfer." But like, if you're the reason Dylan Gabriel is gone, why would you do that?
Yeah,
they hitched their wagon, you know, boomer territory there.
Yeah, seems they did. That's an odd situation. That'll be interesting to see how that plays out because he still can register. He hasn't played too many games to redshirt, so
yeah.
I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see if he gets Wally pipped or not.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Maybe he gets Jackson Arnold. Texas A&M wins 21-17, or I think that was the final score. Wins by 4 though. Push on the line. That defense looks like the real deal. I think we've talked about it every week. Maybe that they have played that defense looks like the real deal. Arkansas's offense was kind of flying high, and everybody was talking Bobby Petrino and what he's been able to do going down there and helping old Sammy boy get the offense turned back around. But Texas A&M's defense looks awesome, and I was pleasantly surprised to see too. Is it Marcel Ball? Had a decent day. Connor Wegman might be back this week, but they might.
Oh, Marcel Reed, the quarterback?
Reed. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Reed, not Ball, whatever. Fucking Reed. 3 total touchdowns. He only completed 50% of his passes, but 3 total touchdowns, and they win 21-17. Maybe they can rest Wegman another week before they get him back, and I don't know. We'll see. They got a pretty tough matchup this week with Mizzou, but God, their defense looked really good against Arkansas.
Yeah, this was another game. So Arkansas had 100 yards more offense than did A&M, A&M just had the timely turnovers
Yeah,
that
stiffened up.
Arkansas, that Arkansas didn't force.
That fourth
Like,
quarter fumble was a fucking
oh yeah, that was tough.
backbreaker.
Yeah,
For
I mean,
sure.
anytime we say it all the time, right? You lose the turnover battle, you lose the game. Arkansas, I think, was probably lucky to only lose by 4. They
Yeah.
lost. They turned the ball over 3 times, and A&M didn't turn it over at all. Like, that's a recipe for disaster most weeks. But kind of credit to Bobby Petrino and that offense for staying in the fight and keeping it close.
Yep. For sure.
Against the defense, like you said, that looks pretty good for A&M, despite giving up, almost 400 yards of offense.
Yeah. That Arkansas offense is fucking good. Bobby Petrino, man, if he just fucking keep his willy in his fucking trousers, he'd probably be on a pretty nice run at Louisville right now. But
yeah, for real. If Harley Davidson hadn't come to calling.
Oh my god. Texas, Mississippi State, and I think we saw kind of the first glimpses of Arch's maybe inexperience as a college starter. Now they still scored, they won comfortably. They didn't cover the 38 or 39, whatever the big number was. But Mississippi State's bad, right? We talked about this last week that like probably the worst team in the SEC, and it's probably by a pretty big margin that Mississippi State's the worst team in the SEC right now. They've basically been left with a fucking empty cupboard after his second time leaving an empty cupboard at a university. Man, was this just a stumbling? Texas didn't look great. This is the one game where they've got some film now that they can go study against a bad team and say we need to clean up some of these errors.
Sure. Yeah, they won by, was that 18?
I think yeah, something
yeah,
like that.
They won by 18 points. Like,
still comfortable enough.
Yeah,
right?
It's not a bad loss. It's
right.
It's hey, let's take a couple days off practice because we have a bye week. Come back and hit it hard type deal. Like, good win, but we can get better.
Very easily could have been looking ahead to Oklahoma too.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look past the bye, like that's whatever. Despite Mississippi State being the worst team in the SEC, they are still an SEC team. There are guys on that roster that will probably play in the NFL. They're not a roll over and die team, But yeah, I'll take an 18-point win anytime I can get it as an SEC, like in a conference game.
Yeah, but not as a D-gen who laid the points.
Yes.
Ohio State, Michigan State. Ohio State didn't blow this number out of the water, but they did cover. Michigan State looks pesky. Not a good football team, I don't think yet, but they look pesky. Like they're not going to just go away, lay down. They played Ohio State tough at times throughout this game, but this ended up just being Ohio State's preseason number 1 for a reason. They got all those weapons on offense. They got a great defense. How much more confidence? So we talked about Ohio State and kind of what the expectation was going forward. It seems now that Chip Kelly's starting to open up the offense a little bit. They played very vanilla the first few weeks. How much more confidence, if you're an Ohio State fan, right? Put yourself in the shoes of an Ohio State fan. How much more confidence do you have going into week 6 than you did going into week 1?
About the same.
They're about as effective, you think, so far?
Yeah, I mean, I have the same amount of confidence. I might have a little less hope. I mean, we have you mentioned it. Chip Kelly just started to open the offense up. Now, whether it's him actually opening up the playbook or whether it's them being more comfortable with the plays he's calling, I don't know. Yeah. But like, call me in December, bro. Like, let me know. Let me know when the bracket's out. Let me know who I'm playing, because that's well, I guess that's not technically all they're playing for. They have to beat Michigan. That's first and foremost for them, and then it's national title.
It's been like 1,000 days since they've beaten Michigan.
Yeah, like they're gonna beat. Newsflash, folks, they're gonna beat Michigan this year.
And then Ryan Day might get fired. Like,
oh yeah.
On the field after the game, Ryan Day might get fired if they lose to Michigan this year.
Yeah. He'll be like 60-9, and they're going to be like, hey, 4 years in a row to Michigan? See you, bud.
You got to go.
See you, bud.
Chip, you ready to take over?
Yeah, for real. which wouldn't be about higher.
I don't disagree.
But no, I still have a ton of confidence and a ton of hope if I'm an Ohio State fan. I said at the beginning of the year, I still believe it. They have the best roster top to bottom. And that's after watching the Georgia and Alabama game this weekend. I still think that they have the most amount of talent ready to go right now in college football.
Yeah. All right. Stanford, Clemson, ho-hum knocks down the historical ACC superpower in Stanford. The Clemson offense is humming along right now. Is it sustainable?
I mean, Cade Klubnik just completed less than 50% of his passes in this game. So
he's running the ball a lot more efficiently, but
sure, he is. 7 for 48. That's cool. Are you asking me to say something nice about Clemson? Is that what
No, I want you to shit on him. If you want to shit on him, shit on him.
Look, hey man, is Dabo still the head coach there?
Right.
All right. Enough said. You know what I'm saying? Like
it's not sustainable because Dabo's still there.
And they're playing nobodies. They're not playing anybody good. We saw them play a good team in week 1, and we saw what happened.
It was
Clemson is not good. I'm telling you, people. Clemson's Cade Klubnik. He's not a good quarterback. He's not an accurate passer. He is a very good runner. I'll give you that. He's a dual threat guy, but he's not Avery Johnson.
How is he the number 1 guy in his high school class?
Because it's high school.
Yeah,
what do you? I mean,
that's fair.
Nick Harbor
DJ was number 1.
Yeah, exactly. Like Nick Harbor was the number 1 athlete coming out of high school 2 years ago, and he doesn't play.
Yeah.
Like I understand the rank. There are folks that get paid a lot more money than me to do rankings, and they get it wrong sometimes. It just happens. Plus, we call it the Dabo offense for a reason. He's changed coordinators, and it looks exactly the same in Clemson as it has since fucking Taj Boyd was there playing quarterback. Like, it hasn't changed. He just happened to have Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence roll through town, and they were generational college quarterbacks who are now both struggling a lot in the NFL.
Terrible. Literally, I don't know if you caught the show last night on the Blitz. Raul and I talked about that, and I laid it out for him. I said, listen, we might just be seeing the product of Clemson had Mike Williams, T. Higgins,
Sammy Watkins,
Tyler Boyd, Watkins. Like they just had a number of unbelievable athletes around. And then you talk about the running backs that they had, like CJ Spiller and on down the line with the guys that they've been able, ETN and all that. Like those guys that they've been able to put on the field with those quarterbacks, and they were churning on NFL offensive linemen every year. You're talking 2 to 3 guys a year were getting drafted in the NFL from that offensive line for about a 6-year stretch. Maybe that's what we're seeing, right? Dabo benefited from it. And maybe both Deshaun and Trevor Lawrence benefited from it. That maybe this is the product of what we're seeing now. And Dabo can't keep up because he's not embracing NIL. He's not embracing transfers. He's not embracing kind of modern college football, and he's getting left in the dust. And that's probably what we're seeing right now.
I'm going to defend Dabo here for a second. I did it earlier in the season where I talked about I like what he stands for, loyal to his guys. And
yeah. I didn't mean to set you up for this.
No, you're good. But because Clemson is a national title, people want to hear this stuff, right? So I believe that Clemson Dabo is a very good recruiter. He obviously brings in top 10 classes every year, whatever, right? Is he the best X's and O's development guy? Probably not, but he's a phenomenal recruiter. I get that. I think a lot of what has to do with him not bringing in transfers is because Clemson doesn't have the biggest donor base, right? Their NIL fund is not huge. So the guys that he would be looking to bring in the transfer portal are probably more expensive than he can afford to come in and raise the floor of his team because he has recruited so well.
Yeah.
Right? So he has these guys on the roster that are just as good as the guys that he would bring in from the portal.
Just go get a high school senior.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So it's like, it's not that they're devoid of talent. It's that they're devoid of development.
Yeah.
And then the guys that he would need to bring in to make the team better, he just can't afford.
Yep.
But there's a motion in the House right now in Washington to bring in revenue sharing to all of these schools with the new TV deals coming in. So that would roughly bring in $16 million to Clemson of brand new money. And we know that if they bring in 16, 12 of it's going to football.
Yeah.
So if you give it may even be more than that, right? Like it might be 15, 16, and they get like 20 or whatever, right? But if you give Dabo, well, even number, $15 million to spend in the transfer portal, you don't think they're going to bring in some big boys? You don't think they're going to bring in some names?
I do.
I do too.
Once he embraces it. And maybe it's easy for him to stand on principles because he doesn't have the NIL either.
Sure.
Right? He doesn't have that war chest that other schools have. That might be a big part of it for sure. But yeah, we'll see. And you bring up the NIL thing, and it's always fun to kind of speculate, right? Where do colleges get their money from, right? Michigan's got all the lawyers. They've got all the Supreme Court justices, yada, 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 where they've got the connections in that world. And like Texas has all the oil money, and California has all the Hollywood money and all the other stuff that comes along, the TV money and all that, the celebrities, yada, yada. What does Clemson have, right? You're in kind of central South Carolina. What's Clemson's claim to fame?
Chase Bank? I don't know. Like whoever the finance folks that work in Atlanta are.
Right.
Chick-fil-A money? I don't know.
Chick-fil-A, maybe.
That's going to UGA, though. Let's be honest here.
Yeah. So, actually, we could talk about this because a lot of people don't quite understand what the portal is. We'll take a quick detour, quick aside. So, what happens is you can transfer within college football. You've always been able to transfer within college football. What it used to be was you kind of had open, free transfer. There was never supposed to be money involved. But you also had to sit out a year. You took a redshirt year, your transfer redshirt year. If you were a redshirt already, you would just lose a year of eligibility, so that you could basically, back in the day, you could get 5 years of eligibility maximum with very few exceptions. Now it's like the Wild West. We've got 25-year-old guys playing in college football because COVID years and all that craziness. So what they did during COVID was opened up the transfer portal to basically be fair game. You didn't lose eligibility. You could just transfer it to a school. You could transfer it an unlimited number of times, essentially. Now they're trying to rein it back, but that's for another day. But then the NIL comes along, and you add money to the equation. So schools are now allowed to pay players under what's called name, image, likeness agreements. And they
schools
can. You're right.
Collectives
that's out of pocket. There's a collective associated with a school that's allowed to pay players under what's called name, image, likeness. The schools are paying them, but it's the collective, right? I did misspeak. There is an actual like semantics, and there's a process, and there's like legality around it. The collectives can dole out money to players to come in, and in the transfer portal, you can basically go to players and say, you're going to come in, you're going to play this, you're going to get this amount of playing time, we're going to play this style, whatever you fit, but also we're going to give you $1 million to come to our school to play. So that's how the transfer portal works. Did I miss any nuance on that? Do you want to highlight?
Not really. I mean, there's 2 transfer portal windows. There's one in December, and then there's one after spring practice in March, I think it is. So you technically, and this is what Bear Alexander did out of SC. He committed to Georgia in the like spring or whatever freshman year, then decommitted in the summer, then recommitted and enrolled, played, and then entered the transfer portal that December. So like he played that fall ball for Georgia and then decommitted or unenrolled or whatever and entered the transfer portal in December. So like without having to sit out the year like you previously did, you can hypothetically play in a bowl game in December and then in February start practicing with your brand new team wherever else you want to play, right? Like, so it is really the Wild West. I don't love it. I understand the player empowerment, whatever. This will all get hashed out at some point whenever these schools are legally allowed to pay these players, because then we're really going to have professional sports. The college
It'll be
ranks here,
contractual, and it'll
they're
be the
going to have
minor
a
leagues of the
yeah.
NFL.
There will be a commissioner. There will be a collective bargaining agreement. There will be a players' union. You will sign a contract with a school. You will get paid via the school,
Yep.
and it will feel a lot more like the NFL than it currently does. But at least, in my opinion, I think there will be far more player movement if you say, "Hey, your NIL money becomes void if you break your contract." Right.
Yep.
So I, as much as I don't like it currently, I think that there is a chance for it to get to a much better place than it is right now.
Yep.
Because it is tough to, especially in basketball. It's way more difficult in basketball, I think, to keep track of all these players that are moving as often as they are. Add that with a one and done deal.
It's 300 Division I teams in basketball.
Yeah, it's tough, but
it's tough with 100. What are we up to now? 122, I think, in Division I football.
134, I think.
Is it 34? I know we've been FCS teams coming up. I'm showing my age. We used to have 115.
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
But yeah, and I'm with you. I think we're eventually going to get to a place. I also think the NCAA is going away in college football. I think there's going to be a different governing body for college football. It's going to be separate from other sports because of the money, because of the TV dollars that come in with football. I think they're just going to break off and just be they're going to be affiliated with schools, but it's going to be like minor league football. I'm with you though. I do think we're going to get structure eventually. The NCAA was just stubborn for so long, and then when the levy finally broke and they gave in and they said, okay, we can start paying players, they basically just like washed their hands of it and was like, it's NIL and you just do whatever you want.
Yeah. Yep. And then we get Sluka leaving UNLV after starting 3-0.
Dude.
Crazy. Dude. And I think they lost a linebacker and a running back as well.
Right.
Yeah.
In the midst of potentially an undefeated Mountain West season. Like,
yeah.
Woo. That's tough. Yep. All right. Hopefully we illuminated a little bit when it comes to the transfer portal. Iowa State, Houston. Houston's just not that good. They're probably the basement of the Big 12 and by a pretty good margin. Then we get to the game of the weekend, potentially game of the year in week 5. Holy fuck. I thought this was going to be a dud at halftime.
Yeah, LSU really turned it on in the second half and crushed South Alabama. I'm glad.
What did I do? Did I skip a game?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Did I skip a fucking game?
I thought you were just hyped up about LSU South Alabama. I don't know.
But Alabama just goes out like gangbusters and just boat races Georgia for 30 minutes. And right at the end of the half, Bama was a little bit disjointed, and it felt like you don't want that to carry over to the second half, and it did. And Georgia took advantage and raced back and took the fucking lead at one point after being down by like 100.
Yep.
And then Bama comes right back, hits maybe the most electric player in football right now, Ryan Williams, 17 years old. They said that 300 times during the broadcast. He's doing this in high school right now, but he reclassed, and it's awesome, right? It's great. But dude, he looks like a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
With the exception of the fact that he is unreal fast.
Yeah.
And very jittery. And if you didn't know, now you know that play that he scored to get the lead back for Bama was just, he made 2 defenders look silly like 3 times in the same play. Catches the ball, stops on a dime, one guy runs by him, then he's up the field and kind of spins out of a tackle, looks and assesses, and then he disappears down the sideline and he scores. And then he changes his profile pic to Michael Vick because the dog connection, Georgia Bulldogs. But what a game, dude. What a game. Yeah. Talk to me about this fucking game.
Do you want me to be excited about it, or do you want me to give the Debbie Downer approach to it?
Be excited first. We'll bring everybody back down to earth at the end.
Okay. That was fucking electric. So I was watching the game at my house at an old Army buddy over this weekend who's in town. We were watching the game. Alabama goes up 28-0. And we've been watching the afternoon games at the bar by the house, and I was like, "Hey, it's 28-0. You want to go back to the bar? Like, I don't know. This might be ugly early." So we go back to the bar. They didn't have the game on. They had some other games on or whatever. So I'm just kind of like watching, perusing. I'm like looking at my phone, and Georgia scores twice, and I was like, I'm gonna go back to the house. Like, it's like a 3-minute walk that I'm going back to the house. You can stay if you want, but I got to go back and watch this. And boy, am I glad I did, because that was one of the most electric second halves of football I've ever seen. I mean, Carson Beck came out and was on fire in the second half. Looked like the Heisman Trophy candidate that we all kind of expected him. You know, you and I don't think he's great, got it, but whatever. He's a really good college quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, aside from Ryan Williams, I mean, Jalen Milroe looked like the best player on the field. Yeah. I mean, he's between him and Ryan Williams, they had the two fastest guys on the field, and they both played offense for Alabama. Like, when they move, the rest of the guys look like they're in quicksand.
Yep.
Like, and then Ryan Williams makes that tip drill catch, and then so that was not for the touchdown later. So he makes that tip drill catch. That's insane in and of itself. Right. And then the one play 75-yard catches the ball, the two defenders run into each other, like you mentioned, goes down, and then hits like a post move, like hezzy, like fake spin. And yeah, it's like he did that so fast. I don't think the defender knew what he was looking at. I was like, that man is going to be 18 before you turn around and catch him. It's crazy. Like, unbelievable. He also will get drafted when he's 20, so that's pretty freaking sweet, because he turned 18 this year.
Yeah.
Or he turned 17 this year, not 18. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
He reclassed. Like he literally finished high school early so that he could go and play college football early, because he was that much of a man amongst boys in high school.
My question here after this game, right, to you. So you asked me 2 weeks ago, does Alabama have a USF problem? And later we found out that no, it was just that really shitty officiating crew. So my question to you after this game, does Kirby Smart, after going 1-6 now against Alabama, have a Tuscaloosa problem?
Yes, he fucking does. Yes, he does. You could always just say it was Uncle Nick, right? Because the governor always beat his assistants, right? And Kirby, I believe Kirby was the first to beat him, and then Lane beat him after that, or maybe vice versa, whatever it was.
Sarkisian.
Or Sarkisian, you're
right.
So
it was Kirby. Kirby beat him in the national title game when Jameson Williams tore his ACL. Right. And then last year, Sarkisian
beat him last year, right? Yeah. So it was always just kind of like the governor was going to put his thumb on the assistants and beat him, kind of like Belichick used to do to all his fucking assistants as well.
Yep.
But it might just be a tide problem, honestly. And I get it, right? Like, Nick didn't leave the cupboard bare.
No.
And Kalen DeBoer, we've talked a lot about like who he is as a coach and how successful he's been everywhere he's gone. He's like the greatest coach in the history of NAIA. And oh, by the way, he took Washington to the national championship game last year. And he's got Bama rolling. Jalen Milroe's a different quarterback this year.
Yeah.
And I know like late last year, he started to look better. He looks like a quarterback this year.
This Jalen Milroe beats Michigan in the playoff game last year
by like 40.
Well,
no, probably not.
That Michigan defense was really good.
I agree, though. This Jalen Milroe wins a national championship last year.
Yeah. Might win it this year.
I don't. Who's going to beat him?
Ohio State.
Maybe Ohio State. Maybe. Jalen Milroe looks like a quarterback, though. Like he can win from the pocket, but he's also, like you said, like maybe the best athlete on the field, with maybe the exception of Ryan Williams. But Jalen Milroe's a big dude.
Yeah.
He can hurt you in multiple ways with the ball in his hands. Ryan Williams is going to make you look silly like he did, but holy shit, this Bama team looks really good. You asked me during the game, or maybe right after the game or whatever, we were talking about it, like, was Nick Saban holding Jalen Milroe back? Was Nick Saban holding this offense back? Like, holy shit, they look good, man. They look really, really good. I don't know who beats them. I look at it and I think the second half I think was a little bit of an anomaly. I think Bama kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit and Georgia just got weirdly hot. We've seen that in these Bama Georgia games though. We've seen where they just get these moments where like the defense just seems like they can't make a stop. I think it was the SEC title game when Tua came in and they just neither team could make a stop and all that. Like we've seen this from these teams. So it was an absolutely electric game. And my caption tonight is for this game, instant classic. That's a game that's going to be talked about for a long time. It's probably the game of the year. If we get a game better than that this year, I look forward to it because that was fucking awesome.
Yeah, 100%. I found the Lost in Alabama schedule if you're looking for it. It's
They
in
go to
2
Columbia?
It's in 2 weeks when South Carolina comes into Tuscaloosa.
Love it. Love it.
Georgia's good.
But... the real deal, though.
Hmm?
That defensive line is the real deal.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
So are you gonna bring us back down to earth now?
Yeah. That game didn't mean shit.
Right.
That game was super fun. It was awesome in the moment. Everybody loved it. It was fantastic.
They're both going to be in the playoff.
Didn't mean a goddamn thing. This is what you greedy motherfuckers wanted. NCAA and you stupid college football fans that don't appreciate the week-to-week madness that is college football. Because that instant classic game that we just talked about doesn't mean a fucking thing because Georgia is still going to make the playoff even though they lost to Alabama.
Yep.
Didn't mean a thing.
It's not an eliminator game.
Which is an absolute shame.
Yep.
That losses are supposed to feel bad.
Yeah.
There are players there. I have spoken to Georgia fans that say they feel better about Georgia after that game than they did going in. You just lost to your rival. How do you feel better? They're like, yeah, we can totally win a national title now. Did you see that offense in the second half? Yeah, did you see that secondary that gave up a 75-yard touchdown in one play to give up the lead? And then your
17-year-old
to a 17-year-old, and then your Heisman hopeful quarterback, there's a game-ending interception on the comeback drive. Like,
yeah,
that's supposed to hurt. You're not supposed to enjoy that. You don't come out of that game feeling like, oh, we could totally win a title. No, you're supposed to say, man, I hope we still make a New Year's Bowl.
Yeah.
But nope. Awesome.
You're going to host a playoff game at work. At
sick,
work,
dude.
So I have a funny story that's similar to your halftime story, but almost ended very, very badly for me.
Uh-oh.
So I'm at that birthday party that I mentioned, and it gets to halftime, and the guy sitting next to me is a Bama fan, and I let my wife know I'm going home. I'm gonna bolt from the birthday party. I've been a trooper for 3 hours now, and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna watch college football the rest of the night. We got Pac-12 late at night.
Yep.
But yeah, Pac-12. But either way, we had late night football.
Big 10 after dark.
So I made the biggest mistake, and I know better than to do this, but I say bye to her, and I go over and I dap this guy up, and I say, hey man, enjoy the rest of the game. Enjoy that ass whooping.
Oh no.
Mind you, I have to drive home. It's like a 10-minute drive back to the house. And halftime was just about over when I left. I got to the house and Georgia had scored twice. And I was like, what the fuck did I do? What the fuck did I do? I'm glad I'm not sitting there with this guy after I said that shit. Like, I know better than to do that shit. Oh my God. I'm glad they ended up winning though, so I don't have to feel so bad. But
you could never talk to that person again.
Never. Like I couldn't even show my face around that guy the rest of my life.
Or you could just tell them that game didn't matter because they're still gonna make the playoff.
Fair. I could lean on that. Anyway, onward and upward. Illinois plays Penn State. Sort of tough. Penn State doesn't cover. Illinois is a team that's going to continue to play tough. We talked about it. They like to grind games out, bring you down into the mud. LSU covers against South Alabama. Boise State. Dude, you've been talking about them. And funny anecdote around that. Got a group chat I'm in. They kind of get into college football, but they talk about it like gambling wise, yada yada yada. And somebody mentions Boise State minus the points and whatnot. And I said, if you don't know the name, Ashton Jainty is the guy, right?
Yep.
Keep an eye on him. And the one guy's like, yeah, he looks like he's kind of a stud. And we get to like halftime and it's all anybody wants to talk about. This Jainty guy is nuts. This Jainty guy is nuts. Well, yeah, I fucking told you before the game started.
Yep.
We've been talking about him for a month.
Yep. Welcome to college football, boys. We're glad to have you.
So Utah State this week, and we're going to talk about this game, but Jainty is literally minus money to score 3 touchdowns this weekend. It's unfucking believable.
Oh
Vegas is like,
god.
yep, this guy's gonna dominate.
Yeah. That's what he does. He's if I had a Heisman vote, he would be finishing second for me right now, only behind
Yeah,
Travis Hunter,
yeah.
who played 128 snaps in the Florida Heat. So suck on that, Urban Meyer and Brandon Marshall.
Oh, Utah, man, what an egg to lay against Arizona at home. We had been talking. Isaac Wilson looked better as the weeks had gone on, and I don't think I hang this at the feet of Isaac Wilson because I think he played pretty well. I think they got a little too aggressive on fourth down in a lot of ways. They gave some points away, gave a couple short fields, and Arizona's scrappy. They haven't had a great start to the season, but that's a scrappy team. They do miss Jed Fish. Man, what a disappointing loss for Utah, though. Like, I think they still control their fate because, as you said, the 12-team playoff kind of waters it down, losses like this. But that's a tough one to handle. Are we going to see Cam Rising before the end of the season again?
Oh god, I don't.
Or is
He's
he
got
getting
that.
a 2-year of eligibility?
So the good news is he's recovered from was his ankle or his knee, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So that's not bothering him anymore. He's got that hurt. I think he broke a finger on his throwing hand or something. He's got something with his throwing hand. So like, that's not the major injury is gone, right? So I have to imagine he comes back and plays, especially with them losing and
Yeah.
Kansas State looking as good as they did. Because I think is that next weekend? When do they play? They play
It's
soon.
soon. It's soon.
They play on. Oh no, it's not soon. They
Is it
don't
not?
play.
I thought it
No,
was.
they play. Yeah, no, they don't play. They don't play. I thought they did.
Do they not?
No, they don't. They get,
TCU.
yeah,
They
they get
play
TCU.
That's
Same
right.
colors.
Purple.
Yeah.
It's on me. It's on me.
No, I thought they played. Either way. I mean, it's not like they have a cakewalk schedule down the rest of the year.
No,
So
I mean,
they're gonna have to win
BYU's not a
out.
walkover anymore.
Yeah,
We've got Iowa State on their schedule.
yeah. I mean, that defense is for real. We also saw a team go in at night and win in Salt Lake City, which really doesn't happen. I didn't think that Fafita looked especially good. Like he wasn't great. Neither was McMillan. I don't know. It's just like, I mean, you mentioned it. They were super aggressive on fourth down. I think they knew they were going to need the points because like points were hard to come by in this game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Arizona winning a game with scoring 23 points was not something I had on the bingo card for the season. I'll be honest with you.
Nope.
It just Utah looked really, really bad.
Yep.
You know, Wilson threw those 2 picks. It was just kind of game enders, honestly.
Yep.
Each one of them individually felt like a game ender in and of itself.
Yep.
Not a great showing. I didn't feel good. I did jump on.
Disappointing because he looked pretty good in the first half. I thought.
Yeah, I mean
his night ended up bad.
Yeah,
I thought he looked all right for the first half, but it's clear if Cam Rising doesn't play the rest of the year, they're not gonna win the Big 12. I don't.
No, it'll be K-State if
Yeah.
Cam Rising doesn't come back. But if he does, it's back to. I mean, it's already wide open. Like, don't get me wrong. The Big 12 is still wide open. Like, Arizona is 1-0 in conference play. Like, they still have a chance, right? With that offense, you know, the Utah defense is incredible. We say it every single season. With that Arizona offense, they have a chance to still be really, really good going down the stretch. Like, this was just a game where Utah played poorly in the second half, and Isaac Wilson had turnovers that killed them, and they really, really missed Cam Rising, but they're going to be fine as long as he plays.
Yep, for sure. And then we finish out with Oregon, UCLA. That Oregon offense isn't clicking yet. It's really not. I know they scored. It was 34, I think they scored against UCLA, but that's a pretty bad UCLA team to win by, I think 3 scored. 21, I believe, was the final difference. Are you worried yet about Oregon?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Call me in 2 weeks.
Too much talent.
Call me in 2 weeks when they play Ohio State.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. I just the more we go throughout the season, it just keeps creeping in my mind. Like, should we be worried about Oregon yet? But you're absolutely right. That Ohio State game is going to be the litmus test for sure. All right. Well, that finishes week 5 of the top 25. Do you have any off the board you want to talk about?
I mean, I was very wrong about UCF and Colorado. I thought that UCF was going to win that game pretty handedly. Honestly, Colorado, I guess, they're just going to be good. I mean, that's Travis Hunter is just going to be Superman. Shador Sanders is going to do his best to not die, and then that defense is going to scrap together enough stops to win games. I guess that's just kind of how that's going to work.
Has any college quarterback run for their life and taken more punishment than Shador Sanders?
Jake Bentley, probably, when he was in South Carolina, did a lot of that. It was pretty ugly.
Yeah.
Not Drake May. Sam Howell, his last year starting was pretty bad. Yeah. It's not pretty, that offensive line, but you get it in the hands of Hunter or like Jimmy Horn Jr. They got some playmakers that work for him. It's just getting the ball there without Shador dying is really kind of their struggle. I was more so like just let down by KJ Jefferson and the Gus Malzahn offense. Like I thought that they were going to kind of slice through that Colorado defense like butter, and it didn't happen. I mean, that was awful in my opinion.
Yeah, that was tough. I was surprised because I didn't have that game on the TV because birthday party. Mm-hmm. We had one screen at the birthday party. Maybe the most disappointing fact of the birthday party.
Tough.
I don't watch on one screen.
No. No, you're a one TV guy. Come on now.
Right, exactly. We are not one TV persons here, but I was surprised when I looked up and checked the score, and I think it was like 30 to 14. I think when I looked I believe was the score at one point, and I was just like, oh, maybe Colorado's good. I mean, they're right now. You look at what Colorado, they're 4-1 and they're 2-0 in conference play.
Yeah.
So you gotta kind of give them their flowers to this point of the season. Their over/under coming into the year, I think, was what, 6.5 or 5.5?
5.5. I know because I have a ticket for it. The under.
You got the under? Well, it's a sweat. It's a sweat.
Yeah, I got one win left.
Yeah. Let's look at their schedule real quick and see if we can plan this out. So K-State this week, I think, not this week, next week.
Yeah.
They're on a bye this week. K-State the following week, probably a loss. They're at home. That'd be a big upset, though. Arizona, that's kind of a coin flip, maybe. Maybe you give Arizona the nod.
Arizona just beat Utah. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Cincinnati might be the one you're in trouble because that leaves like Texas Tech and Kansas for them to squeeze one out. So maybe you're looking at
both of those are road games, though.
They are road games. They've got Utah and Oklahoma State mixed in there at the end. You might be sweating for a month on 5 wins. Month and a half on 5 wins.
What I would love, what would be just ideal for me is if, let's say they lose, or let's say they beat Cincinnati, whatever, get to 5 wins. They lose the rest of the way until they get to Oklahoma State. They host Oklahoma State, and Ollie Gordon goes for like 270. Yeah, just chef's kiss. I get the Ollie Gordon thing right, and I cast the under.
There you go. I like it. That's an ideal scenario.
One more shout out from off the board. 2 more shout outs, real quick. Tulane covered again, 4-1 against the spread this year. Just for those who are keeping up. JMU scored 63 points this weekend after scoring 70 last week against North Carolina. So undefeated. Probably should rank them. I don't know. Just a thought.
Why do we keep disrespecting JMU?
Well, as their coach left and their quarterback.
They scored 130 points in 2 weeks.
That's a fair point. I've watched full seasons where South Carolina didn't score 130 points. So
major conference fucking teams. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a season.
Yep. Yeah. Rank them, put them in.
Yeah.
If they make the college football playoff and host a bowl game, I will be there. I will be at Bridgeforth.
Dude, that area too is like they might as well just name the town like JMUville.
Yeah.
Because it's like there's nothing else.
Nope.
Like It is for anybody that doesn't know, it reminds me of my hometown. That's how small of like the area. It's like the campus, and there's a little bit of like a commercial
There's a
area
mall.
right out. It's a mall basically. Like it's right around the campus, and then it's like farmland, and there's a water park up the road. A
Yeah,
really
well,
nice
I
water
mean,
park.
Massanutten is a ski resort.
Oh, that's right. They do ski there as well. I
Yeah,
mean, it's a resort, but the water park is what we've been to there. But you're right. There is like
yeah,
the lodge and the ski resort. But
yep.
it is like there's not a lot around there outside of like the campus.
No,
Gorgeous campus though.
yeah, wonderful territory.
Gorgeous campus. But yeah, that'll be cool, man. That'll be
If
cool if they
if
do
if
host.
they host a playoff game, I will be there.
That'd be phenomenal. Yeah, my dad mentions Oregon. We're not worried about them until Ohio State. That's soon. That's soon. We only
Yep.
got one more weekend of football before we see Oregon, Ohio State. So we're really gonna find out if Oregon's gonna be able to kind of flip the switch and turn it on. You have one more shout out?
Oh no, that was it. Just Tulane
That
and
was it.
JMU.
Tulane and JMU. That's right. All right. Want to make sure we hit both of them.
Yep.
All right, so we shift gears to week 6, man, and we open the door with Oregon and Michigan State. So you're not worried about Oregon, but you're taking Michigan State. Is this more about Michigan State being scrappy, or is it the look ahead?
It's a little bit of both, right? You mentioned earlier that Michigan State was like feist. What was it? Did you use
Pesky.
feisty? Pesky. Yeah. Well, when you have a coach with an exotic name like Jonathan Smith, you're going to be a pesky team. All right. That's what that means.
Very blue collar name.
Yeah. No, we saw what happened to Miami on a Friday night game last week. Friday night games are very strange in college
Can be
football
weird.
historically. 24 is a lot of points.
It is.
It's a lot of points. This could be like a 28-16 game. Like, I mean, they still win by 2 scores at least, but they don't cover.
Yeah.
I also think look ahead, they get Ohio State next weekend. Like, and Michigan State coming off a battle, right? Like,
Yeah.
they kind of hey, we got to step up if we want to play in this league.
Yep.
So, my record this year is not great. So I'm picking with my head now, I think.
Looking to turn it around. Let's have a better second half.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that also, like, I could see Oregon kind of not wanting to show a lot of things. I think we're going to see a little bit of a tune-up game. That's why I picked Oregon to lay the points here. I just think we're going to see a little bit of a tune-up. Oregon's going to not look ahead, but realize they've got to kind of get things going before Ohio State. I could be wrong, though. Maybe it is a look ahead, but I'm going to lay the points. I think they're going to open up the offense a little bit and kind of tune things up before they face Ohio State. UNLV Syracuse. We are on the opposite ends of this, and I mentioned to you earlier, this is an opportunity for Syracuse to have not one, but 2 top 25 wins against 2 teams that probably shouldn't be in the top 25. I know UNLV is undefeated. I know they've looked pretty good in their 3 games that they've played, but you mentioned it. They're losing dudes to red shirts and transfer portal in October.
Yep. Yeah. So this was a pick. I mentioned that my record against the spread this year is not great. I am above 500, but it's not to the standard that I have come to set for myself. Syracuse is 1-3 against the spread. UNLV is 4-0 against the spread. I'm just going with history. I'm just going with the trend, man. I'm picking with the trend. Would it shock me if Syracuse wins this game? No, it would not. But UNLV playing at home at night, the team is rallying around the players that did not leave because of NIL. It's probably going to be a raucous environment. Give me the team that is undefeated against the spread.
I like it. I did love the sign, and I know I said 3 games that they won, but 4 games that they won. I did like the sign that some fan had in the stands at their last game that said it's UNLV, not UNILV.
Yeah.
That was pretty creative.
That's
I got to
a good
tip my
one.
cap to that. Penn State, UCLA. I just think 28's too many. We just saw Illinois cover, and UCLA played pretty tough this past week. a surprising look for them compared to what I kind of was expecting from them. I just 28 is too many. I don't trust Penn State to cover that big of a number against the conference foe. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, a conference foe. Yeah, who's
It is
3,500 miles away.
It is weird to say.
UCLA is bad. Give me Penn State.
Okay, all right. Texas A&M, Missouri. We're on the opposite side of this one as well. I just think Texas A&M's defense is good enough that we're gonna. And Mizzou's kind of looked pedestrian the last 2 weeks. I shouldn't say pedestrian. They haven't looked like the team that covered big numbers early in the season.
Sure.
And I think Texas A&M's defense is just that good. I like what I saw from Marcel Reed this past week in terms of 3 total touchdowns. Now, again, he wasn't efficient throwing the ball, but he did throw for 2 touchdowns and he ran for another. We might see Wegman back. If Wegman plays, I want to change my pick. I know I can't, but I want to change my pick because I don't think he's ready to come back. He might be feeling a little pressure to get back because of how highly touted he was as a prospect, as a recruit. I think right now the wise decision is to sit him down for another week or so. He just started throwing. So I reserve the right to be wrong about this one if Connor Wegman plays. I won't change my pick, but
yeah,
I reserve the right to be wrong about this one.
So it's funny you mentioned that. I picked Missouri for 2 reasons. One, I think they're the best team that Texas A&M has seen this year. It includes the Notre Dame matchup week 1. I also do not know who's playing quarterback for Texas A&M. So I think that Missouri is a better team than A&M. I don't know who's playing quarterback for the Aggies. What you mentioned it, Wazoo has not looked great the last couple of weeks. I think they get back on track here. I think that they saw that Ole Miss loss and look for an opportunity to move up in the rankings in the SEC. Kind of hammer down and get into the second half of the season and really pick up the pace here. That's what I expect to happen. I like Eli Drinkwitz. I think Brady Cook is great. Yeah. I think they'll be fine.
All right. Louisville, SMU. We're both on SMU. SMU sneaky, man. They're sneaky. Louisville's good, not great. I think Louisville's tough. I think they're going to play a lot of close games. They played a very close game 2 weeks ago. It was on the radio, and now I forget who it was. It was Jacksonville State. I just don't know that Louisville's going to pull away. What's that?
Georgia Tech was close.
Jacksonville State was close for the first half, actually.
First half, yes.
First half was close. I just don't know that Louisville has like the firepower to really pull away from teams necessarily. Jacksonville State's a very small school compared to Louisville. I just think SMU's going to keep it close. SMU might be the exception to the rule of the whole, if you have 2, you have none. They kind of rotate a little bit, and it seems to work sometimes. I just think they're going to play them tough. I don't know that Louisville's going to pull away.
No, I agree. I think SMU's going to be able to run the ball against Louisville. And if you can run the ball, you can usually keep games close.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask me what happened to Oklahoma State last week, though.
Oh, yeah. Ohio State, Iowa. This is much more about the fact that I think Ohio State wins this game 24-0 than it is about I think Ohio State disappearing on Iowa.
Are you on Iowa? I didn't see.
What am I on? Yeah, Ohio State, Iowa.
No. What's your pick? That's what I'm asking.
I'm on Ohio State. Sorry.
Okay, you're on Ohio State. Okay.
This is much more about like I think Ohio State wins like 24-0. Like I just don't think Iowa scores in this game, so Ohio State's going to score enough to cover the 20.5. Seems like a decently big number, but I just think Iowa's not going to score.
Yeah, I tend to agree that Iowa defense is not what it used to be. And Ohio State's defense is better this year than it was last year, so I could see like a 24-0, 23-0 game.
Yeah. All right. UGA, Auburn. I think Georgia's going to keep the second half momentum going against an Auburn team that filled their shoes in the second half against Oklahoma. Probably a blowout. That number might be way too small, honestly, in the end of this game. I could easily see 48-10, something along those lines, like a big, 38, 35 point game in this game. 23 and a half,
24.
Doesn't feel like enough. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I think Georgia's going to win by 24 points, and we're going to push.
We're going to push?
I think so.
34-10? Something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. All right. Ole Miss, the real USC.
You're on the Gamecocks here. Look at you.
I am. I was taken aback by what Kentucky was able to do to Ole Miss's offense last week. And I think that the offensive line problems for Ole Miss are going to rear their head this week. I'm going to have a ticket on USC money line in this game. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm taking the points here because you're going to give me 9. I'll take all 9 of them. But I'm going to have a ticket South Carolina money line in this game because what Kentucky's defense was able to do to Ole Miss, South Carolina's defense is much, much better, especially up front, than Kentucky was. And I don't know that Ole Miss has we talked about it at the top of the show. Like, I just don't know that they have the plain old dogs that they can just lean on to recover from that. I'm going to put in a ticket on USC money line in this.
So will I. I will also have a ticket for USC +9. Just a little hedge there, just in case.
Right, yeah. We'll catch them both.
Yeah, double cash, baby, double cash. Lenore Sellers coming back for this game. I saw, Barstool fan, not a Barstool fan, I don't care. There is a Barstool Ole Miss account, which is obviously associated with Ole Miss, that posted a video today. And it was a video that I was very familiar with. I watched it about 100 times 2 summers ago. It was the Juice Wells is coming back to South Carolina video. Instead of the juice is loose, they said the juice is back. He took $1 million in NIL money and played 3 games, scored a touchdown against Georgia, and then sat out the rest of the season and transferred to Ole Miss. It is if you are involved in Gamecock Twitter whatsoever, you are very aware of how extremely personal this game is for Juice Wells, who, by the way, had 0 catches against Kentucky last weekend. I guess he was saving them all up for this weekend. I don't know what he was thinking because Nick Imanwari is coming for his head. If he catches a ball across the middle, Nick is going to demolish Juice Wells. A man that I would have given my right ankle to just, a season ago. Regardless. I watched that video and, just seeing the amount of quote tweets that are if it wasn't personal before, it really is now type deal from Carolina, players. I mean, I think ESPN did a disservice to South Carolina by not putting this game on at night. Because there's not a marquee game this weekend, right? If there's a weekend for a wedding, it's this one. So thank God. This could have been a marquee game.
This is the calm before the October 12th storm.
Yeah, this. Going into last weekend, this was a flexible game. They said anywhere from 3:30 to 8 p.m. kickoff. They landed at the 3:30 time, whatever. I think that has to do with South Carolina getting screwed of that win against LSU because they would have been ranked. It would have been 2 ranked opponents
losing to Kentucky too.
Well, no, they set the kickoff time before last weekend's games. We knew
right, they did. I thought it was. Yeah. You're right. I thought it was later. You're right.
But either way, think about it, right? A top 10 ranked team in the preseason, now with 1 loss at Ole Miss, going against an undefeated South Carolina team, which would have been ranked, coming off a big win against Akron, then a bye, hosting a night game. That would have been a marquee game. The college football world would have learned about Kyle Kennard, Tonka Hemingway, TJ Sanders, and Dylan Stewart. That would have been their coming out party, right, in national television. They also kind of saved Ole Miss by not doing that because, boy, let me tell you what, Willie B would have been shaking to its fucking core that night with the amount of people coming back to boo Juice Wells as soon as he comes on that field. So I'm with you. The South Carolina defensive line, I've said it over and over and over again on this show. People will realize they're the best pass rush unit in the country. Kyle Kennard, our Georgia Tech transfer senior, he leads the country in sacks. leads the country in sacks, and Dylan Stewart is the number 1 rated pass rushing true freshman in the country. Like, and then you throw Tonka Hemingway and TJ Sanders in the middle. Like they are the best defensive line in the country. And you talked about the offensive line struggles that Ole Miss had against Kentucky last week. Well, we saw what South Carolina did to that Kentucky offensive line. Think what they're going to do to this Ole Miss offensive line. Like, I'm so upset that I'm not going to be able to watch this game live. Like, it makes me ick, dude. But I'm so excited for it, though. I think that Carolina is a live dog. I think with Lenore Sellers coming back, they're going to have enough offense to be able to, even if it gets up into like the high 20s, I think they'll have enough offense to hang with an Ole Miss team. So Ole Miss defense does have holes in it. We watched not Tyler Van Doak, the fucking quarterback for Kentucky. He sliced and diced up the secondary of he's the Georgia transfer who couldn't cut it there, whatever. But he kept throwing to Arden Key, who was wide open all day long against an Ole Miss team. I don't imagine a world where Sellers can't do the same thing, and he's even better running the ball than is the Kentucky quarterback, so he could get out and get loose a little bit. I'm very excited. I think Carolina's a live dog. I'm definitely taking them on the points. Whew! I'm excited.
Love it.
I could go on and on and on.
Yeah. Indiana Northwestern feels a little ho-hum. Indiana being ranked is a surprise, but they've been playing good to start the season. Northwestern's just so bad. 14 points. Indiana probably covers. We're both on that side. Bama Vandy, you're on Vandy here. And how much does this have to do with your boy?
Diego Pavia? My boy Diego Pavia? My boy, state champion wrestler in high school, my boy Diego Pavia from New Mexico. It doesn't really have that much to do with him. It has to do with Vandy as a whole. I know that he's the engine that makes that motor go, or he's the motor that makes the car go, whatever. The boat, he's the engine that makes the boat go, anchor down. Also kind of a letdown spot, I would imagine, for Alabama off that emotional. I expect Alabama to win this game. Don't get me wrong. Alabama's going to win the game. But I don't know if it's like a 2-score game, 17-point game, like that wouldn't shock me. Vandy, we talked about it last week and the week before. I think we both said they're not the doormat of the SEC like they have been in the past. They are better. And, my boy Diego Pavia is just a dog. Dude. He's just a dog.
Yeah, buddy. My big thing with picking Bama in this one is I think there's been some talking this week, stern discussion about that second half for Bama. I think they're going to be a little more crisp. I think that there's going to be some kind of let's rein this shit in. We were fortunate, fortunate to hold on against Georgia last week. And man, they got a lot of horses there in Bama. I just think this is, I don't know that this is going to be like a 30-40 point blowout, but 23 doesn't feel like enough. Maybe this is like give me like 42-13 or something like that in this game. That's kind of what I feel for this game. But I'm with you 100%. We've talked about it. Vandy is not the doormat of the SEC. I just think Kalen DeBoer and company are going to take them boys aside this week and say, listen, we almost fucked away maybe the best half of football anybody's ever played.
Yeah.
And nearly gave that lead away. And I think they're gonna kind of let's tighten things up this week. And I think that we're gonna see a little bit of that kind of talent disparity between Bama and Vandy. But I wouldn't be surprised. I'll caveat everything I just said with I wouldn't be surprised if you got this right and Vandy does. It's a 17-point win or something along those lines. Because Vandy is not the Vandy of old. They're not the Derek Mason Vanderbilt anymore.
Yep.
Clemson, Florida State. Clemson's offense is humming a bit, and Florida State stinks.
Yeah, I would be more inclined to take Clemson with a larger line if I knew that DJU was playing, but we don't know who's playing for Florida State.
The best thing that ever happened to Florida State was that Q next to DJU's status.
Yeah. So that's kind of tough for me, but I still think Clemson rolls them. Florida State's bad.
Yeah, they're so bad. Utah State, Boise. We talked about this a moment ago. I'm going to give you the floor here. Ashton Jeanty. I mentioned 3 touchdowns for Ashton Jeanty is minus money.
Yeah, so Ashton Jeanty has played 3.5 games this year because he got benched, I believe, in week 1 at halftime because they were up so much.
Yep.
Yeah, he has 13 rushing touchdowns on the season in 3.5 games. Like that doesn't happen in college football 25. Like that doesn't even happen in our online dynasty league. That being said, yeah, Utah State not very good whatsoever. So you pair him up with a conference game in Boise. It's probably gonna be a little chilly. There's gonna be some fall air rolling around up there at elevation. Boise State is just coming in. Their offense is absolutely humming. Madsen has looked pretty good. His 7-2 touchdown interception ratio. He takes care of the ball. He doesn't turn it over, and he turns around and he puts it in the belly of the best running back in the country. I say that confidently, like as someone who picked Ollie Gordon going into the year to win the Heisman. Or I didn't pick him. I picked Jackson Dart, but like I gave out the early prospect.
Ollie had good odds.
Yeah, I gave out the very, very early Ollie prospect, but like Ashton Jeanty could win. They could give it to Ashton Jeanty. I wouldn't be upset about it, right? Like, as we stand, there's only 2 guys that it would not really bother me if they won it, and he's one of them. Is he just? My God, is he incredible?
He's unbelievable. I'm really curious because we've seen kind of a resurgence of the running back position in the NFL as well. Not to get too far ahead, but golly, could you he feels like a pretty complete back too.
Yeah.
Maybe the pass protection, maybe you worry a little bit about pass protection, but man, he's a fucking home run threat anytime you just give him the ball anywhere.
Yeah. I saw a mock of him going to Dallas, and I got really upset.
Oh, don't do that to me. Don't.
I want to root for this guy. Please, dear God, don't send
Stay
him
out
to
of the
Dallas.
NFC East. Yeah.
No, come to Washington. What do you mean?
Oh, you come to Washington. Right. Come to Washington. You and B-Rob and
yeah,
absolutely. For sure. Just stay out of the NFC East if you're not in Burgundy.
Please.
Yeah, for sure. That's how I felt about Neighbors too. Like, don't go to New York and then he's in New York.
You know where Jeanty would be just electric, dude? On the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh. That would be incredible.
Oh, that would be wild. Oh, or in like a Shanahan tree offense either. Put it like Minnesota, right? Put him in Minnesota with JJ on the outside. You can't even load the box against him.
Oh man.
Golly. Whew. Man.
All right, send him to Atlanta, dude. They're looking for a bell cow down there. They simply just can't find one that they've drafted in the first round ever.
They cannot fucking figure it out with Bijan, huh? Holy shit. We thought it was Arthur Smith's problem, but apparently it's just, is it a Bijan problem?
I don't know. I don't know.
We said the same thing about Pitts too, but he stinks this year too.
Yeah, Pitts just might be bad. He just might be bad. I don't think Bijan's bad. I think it's game planning.
I think it is too.
Yeah,
I think it is.
Also, Algiers pretty good.
That might be the most profound statement of the year. Is like, I think people have forgotten how good Algier is. Like, they didn't have to draft Bijan.
No, they were good. They had a 1,000-yard rusher as a rookie.
Right.
and
I get it. Like, Bijan was awesome, but like, you had Tyler Algier.
Yeah. Like, you guys have Alfred Morris. Like,
basically,
that's what he is.
Yep. Give him the ball 21 times a game, and he'll get you 1,000 yards.
Yep.
Tennessee, Arkansas. I waffled very slightly on this, and then I reminded myself of how good that Tennessee front is. And I think offensively they are good enough that this is going to be this might be a little bit of a sweat. This could be like a 16 or 17 point game. But I do think Tennessee covers in this one because their offensive front is going to give that Arkansas offense enough problems that Nico and company on the offensive side of the ball are going to be able to score enough points to cover on this number.
Yeah, Arkansas. I like Arkansas. Like, they're good. Don't get me wrong. They have kind of a murderer's row coming up here on their schedule. They get Tennessee at home, LSU at home. They get a reprieve. They go down to Starkville. but then they get Ole Miss at home and Texas at home. Now those are all home games, right? Which is awesome for them. But like that's a who's who of the SEC. And I know that doesn't have to do with this week, but Tennessee, you said it, their defensive front is incredible. It may be like the second best in the SEC, but
it might be. It might be.
It's if Arkansas has a chance to cover the spread, it's gonna have to be a high scoring game.
Yeah,
that's what
got to be a boat race. Yep,
yeah,
for sure.
That's what I think.
One thing I will say, I want to give flowers to Josh Heupel because it's been kind of circulated quite a bit this week, and I remember it when he got hired vaguely. I don't know that I would have made this point if somebody else hadn't made this point as well, but he said when he got hired, like, we're not just going to play offense. Like, I am going to go recruit defense, and he came from the kind of Oklahoma, similar to like a Lincoln Riley style. And we know what Lincoln Riley doesn't do on the defensive side of the ball. But you got to give Josh Heupel credit that he's understood the assignment as a program builder, that you can't just focus on one side of the ball. You got to be willing to go and do the dirty work in terms of getting those guys that are going to help you succeed. And they've got maybe the second best defensive front, maybe in the SEC, maybe in the country, right? Like,
yeah,
it might just be like the SEC's got the number 1 and 2 in the country, maybe.
Oh, it's so fun to say. It's so fun to say. Just think about. I just go to sleep at night like, Dylan
Stewart.
I get to watch it for 2 more years after this one.
Right.
Side note. So I agree with everything you said. The Heupel interview where he's like, don't let me in with those high tempo offenses. We're going to play defense at Tennessee. Phenomenal point. I agree 100%. And I think it's very admirable, like you said, that he has stuck to that. Absolutely. I was going to say something else, then I lost my train of thought. What the fuck was I about to say?
Side note.
Oh, Dylan Stewart. We were talking about Dylan Stewart on College Football 25 has a normal development trait, by the way.
That's asinine.
Normal.
That's going to change. That's going to change before next year.
A 5-star recruit.
Next year's game, that's going to change.
I don't. What? Fucking patch that shit after he had 3 sacks and a strip sack in the first 2 games of the year. What are we doing?
Now. Patch it now.
I need it for my defensive line next year in South Carolina.
Yeah, right.
I need it. No, really, I need it.
Yeah. Oh, Michigan, Washington, and we are on opposite sides of this. I just think Michigan's going to muddy this up, and I watched Washington get bullied by Wazoo, and I think Michigan's going to do similar. Mullins could be close to 200 yards this week. I hope at some point Sharon Moore just accepts the fact that they are going to run the ball 42 times a game and stop with the rotation of quarterbacks. Just put Orgy in and just hope you can run the ball enough. I think they're going to dirty it up against Washington. I don't think Washington has the firepower to pull away from Michigan in this game. Jed Fish has got his work cut out for him because that cupboard was pretty bare after the national title run. Guys left and followed Kalen DeBoer. Other guys transferred out and whatnot because they went there only to play with Kalen DeBoer, and they didn't want to go to Alabama because Bama's got 105 5-stars down there. But I just think Michigan is gonna. This could be like give me like fucking 15-14 or something with this one. Give me 2.5 points, and I feel pretty good with Michigan in this game. It could be a field goal game. And I'll lose by the hook, but this is going to be tight.
One of us is going to lose with a hook. That's how this is going to go, because it always does. I went with Washington. One, they're at home.
Yeah.
Washington allows 12.4 points a game so far this year. I don't know that Michigan is going to get to 12. When you can just stack the box on every single play, and we talked about how Michigan's offensive line is not as good as it was last season. Right. I also think Jed Fish is a better coach than Sharon Moore.
I agree.
So I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go with the home team, who has a really good defense, or who has played very good defense so far this season, and a very limited offense coming into what is now a conference game. I'll take the home team and the points.
Yeah. 2.5 at home tells you exactly how Vegas feels about this. Exactly the same we feel about this. It's that close that it's going to be that. Home field usually gets you a field goal, so this is basically a pick'em game.
As I watched, it was giving up 12.5 points a game, right? Not averaging.
12.5. Yeah, giving up.
They're giving up 12.4 points a game this year.
Yep. SoCal, Minnesota. Minnesota played a tough, gritty game this past week with Michigan, kept it close. I don't know that like that defense is bad. I think Minnesota's going to be able to run the ball pretty well against Southern Cal. Just give me a touchdown. I'll take a touchdown with Minnesota.
Yeah.
I think it's clash of styles. Like Minnesota's got that big offensive line we've talked about. I think that's what we're going to see.
Yeah, I like Minnesota as well. We talked, same thing when we talked about last week's games in the early portion. It clash of styles. You said it. They're Southern Cal's in the wrong conference, dude. They just are.
Yep. Yeah. If they're not willing to recruit, it's never gonna change. But 2 years, 3 years, maybe they can get some bigger hosses in there. But man, it really is a super clash of styles.
Yeah, I don't know if they even understand the phrase "corn-fed" in the state of California.
No.
Well, except for Josh Allen, he's the exception.
Oh yeah. Northern California.
Yeah, very different.
Baylor goes into Ames. Iowa State's giving up 11.5. Iowa State's sneaky good, man. Like, I don't know if they were on your radar to start the year. They weren't necessarily on mine. I thought they were going to finish kind of mid-pack Big 12. They're pretty good. They're probably going to be in this thing for a Big 12 title at the end of the season. They're going to be in the top 3, maybe, in competing for a potential title. And I just think I don't think they're going to blow Baylor out. Give me a 13-point win. I'll lay the 11.5.
So I can tell you exactly when Iowa State came onto my radar, and it was last year it was November 25th of last year. They played K-State.
Okay.
And it was that crazy like Armageddon
Blizzard
snow game,
right?
Yeah. And like both teams were just running the ball like crazy up and down the field. And Sama was the running back for Iowa State that day, and he like had a crazy afternoon. And so that's when I knew that they were going to be able to play smash mouth football in just about any type of conditioning. And so I knew that they were going to be really good running the ball coming into this year. They're probably a little bit better than I expected. But yeah, I like Iowa State in this game. We said a lot of good things about Baylor earlier. I'm going to immediately backtrack and say all the negative things about Baylor, especially after they lose this game. So just know I'm here to flip-flop, gentlemen.
Love it. Then Miami Cal. I just think Miami's going to wake up after the scare last week. And 10. I don't care that they're going out to the other coast. I probably an alternate line. I might lay as much as like 20.5. I think this is a 3-touchdown game.
I agree with you. Yeah, big time. They're playing on Saturday again, which is really where Miami thrives. Mostly Saturday nights after the football games, but also playing football on Saturdays.
Yeah, for sure. All right, bud. Well, hey, tradition. What do we got off the board for week 6?
Oh, man. All right, I have it up in front of me. I'm going to throw a dart here and see what I can come up with. Tulane UAB. That should be very fun. I just like Tulane, best kids. UAB also fire uniforms, so that could be a really good uniform matchup if you're looking for something at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Tulane laying 15, so it could be a tough one to cover. We get a Service Academy matchup. We get Navy, who's very good at Air Force, so that could be a lot of fun. I gotta be honest with you, like the slate this weekend is not. It's not great.
Not great.
We get Texas Tech, Arizona. That's the 11 o'clock kickoff game. That might be the most fun game of the weekend if you're not like a South Carolina fan.
Yeah.
Because that is a game that should have points, unless Texas Tech's offense doesn't come to play because it's in Tucson. But that should be a lot of fun. Arizona only laying 6 at home. that might be an interesting line if you think that Arizona is for real after after the Utah win last week. I may invest in that one potentially. I'm sorry to Brandon. I know our resident Texas Tech fan. Guns up, baby, guns up. Shout out Mike Leach and them boys.
Yeah.
We also have an in-state game. UCF looking to bounce back in the swamp. That could be interesting. UCF laying 2.5 on the road. There's not a ton of compelling college football this weekend, which means that there's going to be like 15 really fucking exciting games.
There might be 3 top 10 upsets this week because that's usually what happens on these weird slates.
Yeah. Who do we think is our top?
Maybe 4-0? What? What are we
Navy's
doing?
Good, dude. Navy's really good. So is Army.
Yeah. Army is good too. Army's in a conference.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, okay, let's see. Who do we think your top 10 upsets are?
Ooh, I just threw that out there because that's usually what happens in these.
Yeah.
Games. That's actually I'll put a stamp on it. Let's take a look.
So you're Georgia at Auburn or Georgia at home.
Okay. I'll give you one. Missouri. I took Texas A&M laying the points.
Okay, so yeah, Missouri could lose.
There's one.
The problem is you don't have a whole lot of top 10 teams playing.
No, there's only 5, 6.
Well, Michigan's top 10. They could lose to Washington.
Is Michigan top 10? Are they?
Yeah,
still?
they're number 10.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Yeah.
So that could be 2.
That could be 2. And then I think your best bet, truthfully, I think your best bet is Alabama laying an egg at Vandy.
That's tough.
Because I don't think Ohio State loses to Iowa.
No.
Penn State, maybe
lose to Auburn. Maybe it's Penn State.
What's more? What? Well, I can tell you what they think is more probable. Actually, just according to Vegas, as I pull this up. Let's see.
I'll give you the other one, and we just gave them their flowers, but Tennessee going down to Arkansas, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe that's the other one.
All right, so Bama is minus.
Bama losing to Vandy.
Okay, so Tennessee definitely has the shortest odds.
Okay,
they're minus 550. Penn State's minus 4,500, and Bama's minus 2,000. So
yeah, so give me if we're gonna see 3, I'll put a stamp on Mizzou. I'll put a stamp on Tennessee, and I'll put a stamp on Michigan.
Yeah. Okay.
If we're gonna see 3.
Man, that would be exciting. I would personally
I don't think it's gonna happen. I just threw that out there as like these weekends are the weird weekends. But those are the 3. If we're gonna see 3, I'll put my stamp on those 3.
If you want to expand it to top 15, Florida State could beat Clemson. DJU revenge game at home.
Just don't have him throw the ball at all.
Yeah, no, of course not. Don't do that. Don't ever ask him to throw the ball. Don't ever ask him to do anything on a football field.
Just don't give him a football.
Oh, he might be the GOAT if football didn't involve a ball.
Right.
If it was just like walking off the bus.
Right.
He looks one of the best. Yeah.
He looks the part no matter what. But,
yeah. I know someone who calls it the airport test. When you're sitting in the airport and the team walks by, you're like, oh, yeah.
That's a good football.
Yeah. Yeah. Got it. I'll go back home.
Yeah. Well, hey, buddy. Good episode. Appreciate you. Yeah. Listen, you've got it in your caption. Today is the last day that we are without football until after Thanksgiving.
Yep.
57 straight days of football, whether it's college or NFL, between now and the end of November. It's exciting. We've got action every week, every day. It's unbelievable. What a great time to be alive.
For those who are not aware of what happens on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, we have this lovely American tradition called Maction.
Maction, baby.
Gary and I talked about Vanderbilt and my boy Diego Pavia, who played in Maction on Tuesdays and Wednesday nights last year. So if you're looking for some fun and entertaining football to fill out your week, tune in to Maction on Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Yeah, buddy. All right. Well, for Bentley and the rest of us here at Backyard Sports, this has been another episode of Tailgate Trash Talk. We are